Welcome back to Tutor Corner LLC, and today we will be covering how to divide exponents and also negative exponents. Okay, so this is the second video so far of this section 2, which deals with exponents. Now, please refer to the first section called multiplying exponents if you would like to better understand how to multiply exponents. Okay? So now, let's start with a formula here. I should say formulas. Negative exponents. Let's say we have x to the power of a. Now, if you want to make the exponent of x, now remember that this right here is the base, and this, the a, is the exponent. Okay? So if you want to make the exponent of the base negative, right now, consider this at the top because it's by itself. So we will put it at the bottom. Since there's nothing at the bottom or nothing at the top, then we will just flip it. We'll put a 1 at the top and the base at the bottom, and we switch the sign of a from a to negative a. That is how you switch from a positive to a negative exponent using the same base. Remember, when you do this, this is also applicable if you have this and you want to make the exponent for the base x to be positive. Right now you have negative a, then you just flip it from here, the bottom, to the top. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And similarly, if you have, let's say, 1 over xb and you want to make it negative, then right now our x to the power of b is at the bottom, so we will put it right at the top. So it'll just be x to the power of b, and remember, when you move it from the bottom to the top or top to the bottom, whatever sign your exponent has will flip. So it flips from positive b to negative b, and the 1 goes at the bottom since it was at the top, but preferably I usually just get rid of the bottom, the 1 to the bottom, only if there's just the 1. Okay? All right. So hopefully that makes sense. And let's give a couple examples on that just to make sure we kind of understand what's going on there. Example 1. So let's say we have 1 to the power of x to the power of negative 2. Normally, when dealing with exponents, I prefer to make sure everything has a positive exponent. So this has a negative exponent, and I want it to be a positive exponent. So right now, this whole thing is at the bottom, since the 1 is at the top. So I will move this whole thing to the top. And the 1 goes to the bottom, so they basically switch. And the exponent, since I moved the base from the bottom to the top, it flips, so negative 2 becomes positive 2. Or you can also write that as x to the power of 2. Okay? Let's do another quick example. Remember, you're more than welcome to pause this video if you would like, and unpause it once you want to go over these problems with me. Example 2. Now, let's say we have something like x to the power of negative 3. Now, that exponent is negative, so I want to make it positive. Since it has no bottom, normally I just put an over 1, and it's at the top, so I move it to the bottom, the 1 I move to the top. And in doing that, the x now goes to the bottom, the 1 goes to the top. The exponent for the x, the negative 3, flips sign, so negative 3 becomes positive 3, or just 3. And the 1 has no exponent, so it just remains the same. Okay. All right, so hopefully that makes more sense. And we'll go on and proceed with dividing exponents. So in dividing exponents, the formula here is x to the power of a over x to the power of b is equal to x a minus b. Okay, so think of this as anything at the bottom when moved to the top. Whatever sign that is, it flips, it switches signs. So right there, it has a positive b. So when you move it to the top, such as here, it becomes a minus b. And we'll see an example of that. Okay. Example 3. Let's say we have x to the power of 3 over x. Now, it's important to note here that we need the same base, okay, in order to simplify that variable. So here, the bases are x's, so I can simplify it, okay? So this x doesn't have an exponent, and remember, if something doesn't have an exponent, it's just a 1, x to the power of 1. So here's what I typically do. This x to the power of 3 is already at the top, so my goal is to make sure everything is at the top, or there's nothing at the bottom. So this I will retain and move it here, right? So we will still have x3, and this we will bring to the top, so times x to the power, remember, this is the power of 1, but since we're bringing it from the bottom to the top, it switches sign from positive 1 to negative 1. Now in this case, when you multiply exponents, you add the exponents, if that makes sense. So these two have the same basis, hence you will be retaining that same base to the power of 3 plus negative 1. So in that case, that is equal to x to the power of 3 plus or minus 1, or 3 minus 1 to the power of 2. Okay? Let's do another example. Example 4. Simplify x to the power of negative 4 over x to the power of negative 8. Now remember, you're more than welcome to pause this video if you'd like to work through this problem, and you can unpause it once you are ready to go over it with me. So this is already at the top, and this is at the bottom. So this, whatever's at the bottom, I will need to move to the top, and whatever's at the top, I'm just gonna copy. So equals, this is already at the top. Oops. And x to the power of negative 8, we're going to move this to the top. So times x. Now, since we're moving from the bottom to the top, this negative 8 will switch signs. So the opposite of negative 8 is positive 8, or just 8. So now we have that. Okay? Now, these two have the same basis, so we can combine them, right? The base is x, the base is x, so we'll just need to write it once. And the exponents are being multiplied, so negative 4, plus the exponent of the second base, which is 8. Now, negative 4 plus 8, that is just 8 minus 4, or 4. So this whole thing is just equal to x to the power of 4. Once again, you're more than welcome to pause this video, slow it down, whatever you'd like to modify it and make sure you're able to better understand what's going on. Now let's do something a little bit more complex so we can kind of apply it into larger sets of problems. Example 5. Remember, the goal here, put everything at the top, combine the exponents using the same basis, and simplify from there. Now we have simplify (9) x to the power of 5 over 3x to the power of negative 2. Let's focus on one thing at a time here. Let's do the numbers first. 3 divided by 9. That's easy, right? 3 divided by 9. That should give you 3. So we're done with those numbers. Now this exponent is already at the top, so we'll just rewrite it. And this exponent is at the bottom, so we will move it to the top. So x times x to the power. Now it has a negative power, so we moved it from the bottom to the top. So we switch the sign. It goes from negative 2 to just positive 2. Okay? Now, there are no more numbers here, so we will just write 3. And is there another base with x? Yes, right here. So we will just write that base once, and we will combine their exponents. So the first x has the exponent of 5. Remember, when you're multiplying those variables, their exponents just add. Okay? 5 plus the exponent of the second base, x, the second x, is 2. So 5 plus 2. And now that should render you, I'm just going to write down the 3. X is the base. 5 plus 2, that is just 7. Hence, the answer is 3x to the power of 7. Okay. Let's do one more example. Example 5. Let's work with maybe a couple more variables. Simplify. (16x to the power of 4, y to the power of negative 2 times z over 4 times y times x to the power of negative 1. What is that equal to? Well, let's do the numbers first. 16 divided by 4, that's just 4. Okay, so we're done with the numbers. So let's move on to the next base. The next base is x, right? It's already at the top, so I'm just going to rewrite it as x to the power of 4. Same as it is. Is there any other base that's an x here? Yes, right here. So this is at the bottom, so we will move it to the top. Times x, since we move it from the bottom to the top, the exponent, the sign of the exponent, switches or flips. So now this is currently negative 1, it'll just be 1. So we move that x. Are there any other x's? No. So let's move on to the next variable. And that would be y. That y is already at the top, so we'll just rewrite it as is, y to the power of negative 2. Are there any other y's? Yes, right here. This y is at the bottom, so we will move this y to the top. So times y. This y has no exponent, so normally it's just 1. But since it's moved from the bottom to the top, the exponent of 1 will switch or flip signs, so it'll be 1 to negative 1. Last but not least, last variable we got here is z. It's already at the top, so we don't need to move it anywhere else, so we just multiply it by z. Okay? Once again, you're more than welcome to pause this video to make sure you understand what's going on. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment in the comment section below if you have any questions or comments. Now let's try to reduce this. So there are no more numbers around here but that 4. So that is equal to 4. X's. Next variable, x. Do we have any other x's? Yes, right here. So we'll just write that variable once, and you add their exponents. So exponent of the first one is 4 plus 1. And those are all the x's. So we move on to the next variable, which are the y's. There are 2 y's, but we're just going to write it once. The variable of the first y is negative 2 plus negative 1. And we're done with the y's. And last but not least, we only got one z, and it's just z, or z to the power 1. You can write it as that, or just leave it as z. Okay, so now let's try to simplify this some more. 4 is just 4. 4, or x. 4 plus 1, that's just 5. So x becomes x to the power of that, which is 5. And then y, negative 2 plus negative 1, or negative 2 minus 1, that's just negative 3. And z is just by itself, so we just write it down. Hence, simplifying this renders us this. Therefore, our answer is 4x to the power of 5, y to the power of negative 3 times z. Now, if you want all the exponents to be positive, this is the only one that has a negative exponent. Hence, I'm going to move it from the top to the bottom, so everything else will stay on top. And I'm going to move that y to the power of negative 3 to the bottom. Since I'm moving it to the bottom, the sign of the exponent will flip. So negative 3 goes to 3. So there goes our answer. So you can write down this or this. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video on negative exponents and dividing exponents. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe for more. Thank you.